one. And it's probably, I'm glad you stuck in. It's probably my favorite nutrition segment or whatever I've done. And timing is everything. Timing is everything. And there's also nothing like a real live visual aid. Today we're going to talk about healthy kale egg breakfast cups. If you've never heard of those, let me tell you. Let me give you a fact. They're great. They're awesome.
Yes.
And they contain two of the best things that you can have. One of which I probably eat very little of, need to eat more of, but it's eggs and kale. And there's other stuff in there too. What's that?
Kale is considered a superfood.
I'm sure it is, because actually I was going to read some of the benefits of kale because I really didn't know what they were necessarily. And have you got something you want to share as I'm talking about this? Or you want to do it afterwards? Okay. All right. But in the meantime, let me show you what they would look like if you can see that.
Now you've seen them in Sunday school.
Can everybody see that?
Y'all see it?
Oh yeah. You know what? That'd be cool too. Yes, ma'am. This thing. There we go. It kind of is. Yeah, here are some live ones.
Wow.
So you know what? I'm not even going to show you any more pictures because that right there is worth 1,000 words. Trust me.
That's breakfast food. And like after Sunday,
Yeah.
she fixes it.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I eat them every Sunday because Kim brings them to Sunday school class. And I got to tell you, with a cup of coffee, they are off the charts. That is the tease. All right.
But they'll stay warm.
Obviously, we know that kale is good because we just said it's a superfood. I love eggs, and I eat one a day. I eat a hard-boiled egg every day. I could eat a carton of eggs every day, scrambled, fried, dyed, laid inside. However, I love eggs. But obviously, though, it depends on which study you look at. They're bad for you, they're good for you. They're bad for you, they're good for you. So I try not to eat more than one a day. And that's kind of like a mid-morning snack for me is a hard-boiled egg. It turns her stomach, but I love it. But anyway, but to combine it with kale, if it's a superfood, it's got to be great because you're getting all the protein that you get from egg and a lot of other stuff. Then you're getting all this other stuff from kale. And so let me tell you a little bit about kale. Kale mentioned it's a superfood. It's low in calorie, high in fiber, and has 0 fat. 1 cup is 36 calories, only 5 grams of fiber, and 0 fat. It helps with digestion, and it's filled with nutrients and vitamins. Just to name a few, it's high in iron, vitamin K, vitamin A, vitamin C, calcium, antioxidants. It's also has an anti-inflammatory agent to it, and it lowers cholesterol. So maybe I can eat more eggs if I eat a lot of kale. But anyway, might be offset one or the other. But anyway, so you see how good that would be for you. I mean, it's awesome. Now I'm just going to kind of read through the recipe that they give here, and then if Kim does things differently, I'll let her talk about that if she would. But it says here, the way they do it in this thing I got off Pinterest. Another great reason to look at Pinterest. But anyway, you saute a medium onion, 3 garlic cloves, and mushrooms in oil. Then add a ½ pound of spicy chicken sausage. Or we talk a lot about turkey sausage. That could be something else that you could add. And cook thoroughly. And then add the sun-dried tomatoes, kale, and finally the feta cheese. I don't know how good feta cheese would be for you. I hadn't really looked at that part. I mean, I guess you could leave the cheese off if you wanted to, if you were really that concerned about cheese. But anyway, spray a non-stick cooking spray into one of those muffins cup trays, and then you put it in the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes at 350 degrees. And then it says, voila, breakfast for the whole family. And then you, if I'm not mistaken, you freeze yours. You do a lot, right? And then you freeze them. Can you add to that, or how you do yours if it's any different?
How I do mine is I put a little biscuit on the bottom of it. So those little food line biscuits that you have, the little cheap ones. So you just take them and roll them out, and I stick them on the bottom. Of course, I spray my pan. I mix up my eggs. I actually add milk in my eggs. And then you can put whatever ingredient, meat-wise, you want in it. I've tried it with different things, but most of the time, which is your guys' favorite, is the taco one that I use. And it's actually, I don't want to freak any of you out, it's made with venison, which for me, I can't process a lot of high fat content, so the venison for me is awesome. That and the kale is also a fighter for cancer. So that's another reason I use the kale. And sometimes I add like peppers and onions and different things like that in it. So you can do whatever you want. Yeah, I do freeze them ahead of time. I just pop them in the oven before I came. So.
And it's great to start Sunday school with.
Yeah,
Let me
and
tell you.
I actually want one of my power drinks for everybody to try that too with it today.
Okay.
Wow.
We'll do that after when we're done. We'll on your way out. You want to try that? I would encourage you to do that.
Yes.
Because those are great. And really, if you're not a breakfast food person, that might be a good way to kind of get you into the breakfast.
It's like a brunch thing for me, lately, because I'm not a breakfast person.
So, hey, any questions or any comments about that? Thank you, Kim. That's awesome.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Kim. She went on a honeymoon, everybody don't know that, and fixed these for us for the 2 Sundays she was going to be gone, and had them in the freezer for us. All we had to do was pop them out and put them in the microwave.
So let me tell you,
Never missed a Sunday.
it's great. I'm a big fan, if you can't tell.
That y'all gave me, and I am all. They are.
That's good.
Plus she makes muffins or cookies to go with it also.
But anyway, we were last night. We saw Kim, and I said, I found your thing on Pinterest, and she said, well, maybe I'll help you out tomorrow, and I'm glad she did. Yes.
Would you recognize our new person?
Well, yeah, Paul was here last week, so glad. And everybody knows you, but just not here.
Carol.
Yes, Carol, thank you for being here this morning. Thank you. Glad you guys are here. So, if there's nothing else on the nutrition segment, and thank you for reminding me, I'll start the devotion this morning. Today's devotion is it's called The Nobleman's Son, or Nobleman, and it comes out of the Gospel of John, chapter 4, and it's toward the end. It's verses 46 through 54. Obviously, it's a great story, and it's one of those that is often overlooked by a lot of the other miracles that Jesus performed, and so it's a good reminder for me when I started studying. I felt like the Lord led me to do this one. But I'm going to read those verses, kind of read the story, if you will, from the Bible. So Jesus came from again Cana of Galilee, and there was a certain nobleman whose son was sick at Capernaum. And when he had heard that Jesus was come out of Judea into Galilee, he went unto him and besought him that he would come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. Then Jesus said unto him, Except you see signs and wonders, you will not believe. And the nobleman said unto him, Sir, come down ere my child die. And Jesus said unto him, Go your way, your son lives. And the man believed the word that Jesus had spoken unto him, and he went his way. And as he was now going down, his servants met him and told him, saying, Your son lives. Then inquired he of them the hour when he began to amend. And they said unto him, Yesterday at the 7th hour the fever left him. So the father knew that it was at the same hour in the which Jesus said unto him, Your son lives, and himself believed in his whole house. Anyway, what a wonderful story, right? And I think if anybody, especially in this case, if you have children, you're really touched by that. And I tell you, you learn a couple things from this story. One is that sickness and illness, or not just that, but any hardship can come to any of us. We're not immune to any of it. And another thing about this is that, it's kind of not really in the Bible, but it's kind of one of those life things where if you're a parent, think especially mom, you don't mess with your kids. You can slap me in the face, don't touch my kids. You can say what you want to about me, don't touch my kids. Or I'll be on you, kind of. You know, I think we all feel that way. Most people do. And then the other thing is that this story demonstrates that a man came seeking Jesus, and he was desperate, obviously. He was seeking Jesus out of desperation in this case. But I'm going to go back and look at some of these verses this morning. And in verse 47 it says, when he heard that Jesus was come down out of Judea into Galilee, he went unto him, and he besought him that he would come down and heal his son, for he was at the point of death. You understand that where the man came from and where Jesus was when he was hunting him down, so to speak, was about 20 miles. And we talked about in the previous weeks how the mode of transportation back then mostly was by foot. People walked just about everywhere they went, and Jesus was no different. So Jesus was out again doing what he did when he's on his earthly ministry, healing people, blinded eyes were opening, people that were deaf were hearing. He was doing all these great things and wonderful things. But you got to understand about this nobleman is that he was in a position, he was in the government, he was an official in the local government. This man really thought, because of who he was and his stature, he thought that Jesus would be impressed by that. And that maybe he would even give him priority because the man was who he was. He was an official in the king's government. And so the man came with a desperation. And here's what the man didn't know. He didn't know that Jesus doesn't respond to position or stature or anything like that. Jesus doesn't respond. That doesn't impress Jesus. And the other thing was, he who responds or seeks Jesus will find him. If you seek Jesus, you really honestly seek Jesus, you will find him. And in verse 48, then said Jesus unto him, except you see signs and wonders, you will not believe. So basically, Jesus kind of flat out threw it out there, just said it. Because of who Jesus was, he already knew this man's heart. He already knew it. Because that's who Jesus is. And he knows our heart. But this man had a need, and then again, it was a desperate one. You know, the thing is that Jesus doesn't ask a question or make a statement without a purpose behind it. You know, Jesus doesn't necessarily engage in small talk. Or, you know, the weather's fine, but Jesus doesn't get wrapped up in talking about the weather. When he says something, it's got a purpose behind it. It's got a meaning. And quite often, this is designed, when he asks questions like that, it's designed to bring a person to a place where they realize they have a need. And it's to reach those people that have that need. It's where that need could be met. And in verse 49, the nobleman said unto him, Sir, come down ere my child die. The nobleman expected Jesus to make a 20-mile trip back to where his son was at home. He expected Jesus to make that trip. And again, it more than likely would have been by foot. And the boy obviously lay dying. And in a way, Jesus was this last man's chance. This was it. It's like he tried everything else. And he was like everybody else. He heard about Jesus and all the wonderful things. And it was to the point where I'll give it a try. That's kind of the way the man looked at it. And then the man thought Jesus had to physically be there in order to save his son, to save his boy. He thought Jesus had to physically be at that location with the boy. The man failed to realize that Jesus had power over death. So, and then just kind of carry that out a little further. If the boy had actually died, the man didn't realize that Jesus could have been there and brought him right back from death. Jesus had the power to do that. He did that. You've ever read the story about Lazarus, and I won't go into that. But Jesus had the power to raise him from the dead. He could have done that. The man didn't. I don't think the man fully realized that. And in verse 50, Jesus said to him, Go your way, your son lives. What awesome words, right? And the man believed the word that Jesus had spoken unto him, and he went his way. When Jesus said that, Go your way, thy son liveth, In effect, Jesus was saying, I don't have to be there. My word will suffice.
Yeah.
Think about that. You know, and remember what we talked, if you were here last week, and even if you don't, I think it was last week, we talked about Jesus being in the boat with his disciples and the great hurricane storm came. And Jesus said, hush to the wind and the waves, and it stopped just like that. Well, that same voice that said that in the boat is the same man that said, go your way, your son liveth. It was the same voice, coming from the same way. How awesome is that? And remember that, again, that Jesus didn't have to be there. I mean, you know, Jesus is everywhere, and wherever Jesus needs to be, wherever Jesus wants to be, that's where he is. Because he says, I am. Just like the woman at the well, we heard that a few weeks ago. I am he, the one that you've been looking for. But this man, remember this man was a nobleman. He was used to getting his way. He was used to people obeying whatever he said. And his son is dying, and he accepts and believes the 6 words given to him by Christ. 6 words. Go your way, your son liveth. 6 words. Think about that. Did the man, and then once the man heard those words, Jesus told him that, he left. But really think about it in human terms here for a moment. When the man left, was kicking himself on the way home. You know, in effect, I settled for 6. My son is dying. I settled for 6 words. I mean, did he second guess himself? He was human. Probably like all of us would have said when we left there at that point is, you know, he believed, but what was the measure of his faith at that point in his life? So anyway, you know, I'm sure his heart was just, and his emotions were all over the place. But anyway, he left. He went on his way as Jesus told him. And in verse 51, and as he was now going down, his servants met him and told him, saying, your son lives. Wow. Yeah. The man's servants ran out to meet the man, and they let him know that the fever had miraculously broken. And notice what the servants said. They used 3 of the same 6 words, and they were, thy son liveth. 3 of the same words, very same words that Jesus used. Wow. But anyway, verse 52, then inquired he of them the hour when he began to amend. And they said unto him, yesterday at the 7th hour, the fever left him. So the man asked specifically, exactly, because it's my own starting to work, exactly what time was he healed? Exactly what time did that fever break? And then 53, so the father knew that it was at the same hour in which Jesus said unto him, your son lives. And himself believed, and his whole house believed. So everybody was affected by that.
Yeah.
So the father knew. Once they told him the time, and he thought back, his mind began to think back, and guess what time did he say that? And then basically the father had, the nobleman, the father had a verification of not only the healing, but exactly what time it took place. I mean, that was a miracle, and it began to dawn on him it was a miracle. I mean, he had that revelation. Wow. Wow. And this man's faith was increased because he saw and he believed. And again, so did the whole family. And so that's really that's it as far as the story goes. And as I begin to wrap it up here, Jesus changed the life of this one man, but also he saved the family forever. I mean, there was a physical healing, but there was a spiritual healing that took place within that family, and it was effective for an eternity. And I heard a pastor one time say, Jesus never left a life or a person worse off than he found it. Think about that. He never left anything worse than he found it. Wow. And then this man started out with the thoughts of, I'll try Jesus. I mean, that was kind of, I got nothing else. I tried everything else. I'll go try Jesus. I'll find him and I'll try Jesus. But he ended up in a place where he says, I believe. And he believed, and then at that point, he received salvation, and his eternity is guaranteed. And that same thing can happen as available to all of us, each of us. And I'll just close it with the last things. You guys know me as an instructor, fitness instructor, certified personal trainer, all that. But I'm really a lifeguard. I'm at the beach, the sun and the waves and all that. I'm a lifeguard. And I know you're thinking, really? Well, I don't have a certification. I'm not a certified lifeguard. I don't get paid by the county or any of that other stuff. But because I know Jesus, I'm a lifeguard because I can't physically save anybody, but I can go in the water and lead you to the one that can. So that makes me a lifeguard. I'm in the life-saving business. And anyway, and each of you can too. All right. Anybody got any questions or anything to add to that? Yes.
Not to add, but I just thought this nobleman had to have proof. His faith was so wavering. And even after they told him he was alive, he still asked what time he would break.
And that's when you got that validation. But you're right. I mean, I guess because we're human is the only way to explain that. We still, when I read that, it was kind of like, we're in a sense, we're all from Missouri because you got to show me.
Right.
In a way, But that, for him, that was it. That's what did it. Because, and that's the thing I found out about my Christian life is, we all start at about the same place this man right here started. I think I'll try Jesus. And then as your faith grows, and as your journey grows, your faith grows. And that's the way it should work, and that's the way it works. But thank you for saying that and sharing that. Anybody else?
I was just going to say, each one of us are born with a measure of faith, but we are humans, like you said, and we have to seek the Lord because we have this little measure of faith. We want to know the Father, so we seek and run after Jesus. And still we're going to battle with our natural selves, even though that God give a little bit of faith is there. We want to believe God. I think, everybody has that. They want to believe there's a higher power while you're here and more, but it's God that people really want to believe in. And that little bit of measure of faith, sometimes that natural man is tied up in there and we waver.
Yeah.
We won't go after Jesus and believe what Jesus said because natural man's fighting, resisting it.
Yeah. And quite often, until it becomes personal, like this man here, that's
it.
that's when it clicks a lot of times because when it becomes personal.
That's right.
You just reminded me how much faith I had when I didn't know I had it. I mean, really.
Wow.
My
I
son,
like that.
my
I
son
like
was dying, more or less, over alcohol. And I went to the church Debbie Austin had to be then, and I begged her to let me in, and I went to that altar and prayed my heart out. I knew who to go to.
Yeah.
I knew he was the one. And my son said, Mama. Yeah, he looked up, he seen somebody, he called him Mama. But at the time I was in that church.
Isn't that awesome?
I had faith Jesus would do it and God would do it. There was no doubt in my mind that I had to get in that church. But he did.
You realize that's a testimony right
Yes,
there.
it is.
That's powerful and that is awesome. It's beautiful.
I went in there and prayed my heart out.
Wow.
But I wasn't going to church then. I mean, I might have been seeing Betty or something.
Yeah. But that was exercising your faith. That was exercising
Oh,
your
I've
faith.
never loved that.
It's good. Wow.
Tell you what, let me exercise your body, let God exercise your faith.
There you go.
I'll make that deal with you.
But it just reminded me how much faith I had, and I didn't even realize it.
That's beautiful. That's really a great way to say it.
Actually, well, I always know he's there.
Yes.
That was a different time.
But thank you for sharing. Thank you for all of you. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else or anything? Yes,
You
ma'am.
know, it's so awesome when God answers a prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and I told God, I said, I cannot do this myself. I need your help. And Thursday, one night, when I was sleeping, God said to me, "So you okay?" You know, I got up and realized anymore, and everything was okay.
You're right. When God says you can count on it,
That's true.
wow. We're almost in the testimony session here. I like it.
He's answered a lot of my prayers.
Yes, me too. Me too. And I know a lot of folks can say the same thing. Great.
I wouldn't be here.
Wow. It's amazing how people get together and things can just
Yep,
work.
that's right.
And speaking of answered prayer and prayer itself as a topic, Esther's Heart that kicked off last August has been trying to get women to see the need for prayer, personal prayer, corporate prayer, prayer meeting, gathering as a body to pray. We had a tremendous Esther's Heart last month, and we had 4 churches represented. We had 1 get saved and 5 ladies challenge. And as I grow in ministry, God is using Esther's Heart in spite of me as a vessel with flaws to build something on this island. This is not another religious good work that's going on as an endeavor on this island. God is moving through this little effort here, growing it and even further into Esther's Heart. And there's no telling what he'll do even more. So we're having an Esther's Heart meeting conference this coming Thursday night. Free meal. You won't have to bring a single thing. It will all be provided. Professional gospel singing. That's how I like to bill it. Professional gospel singing.
That's right.
Truly it is.
Yep.
Truly it is.
Uh-huh.
All free. No cover charge, no book charges, no nothing. Just come and then I'll be ministering the word. And this week the word will be on the covenant. You do not want to miss it.
That's right.
Thank you. I was supposed to give the public service announcement up front, and I forgot it. That's why she's my best side. Let me just, you've heard me say this before, but you know, like me being at the Pheasant Center, and then being here doing this, and her doing Esther's Heart and those kind of things, none of that is coincidence.
No.
None of that is luck. None. That is purely God. That is purely God.
Set you up.
He did, because Godfit was something he laid on me about 8 years ago.
Wow.
And then every once in a while, and I did it in my own church, but only 1 or 2 times. But this is what he was saving me for.
Sure.
This is what he was saving me for. And I told you, when I got hired at the Pheasant Center, they should never have hired me. They should never have hired me.
You're right. No, I'm just
You don't have to be. Okay, you're a little overzealous. But if you look at it on paper, they had never heard me. Didn't know who I was. God knew, but they didn't. And all the folks that they interviewed, they knew every one of them.
They probably looked at your energy.
Well, I don't know, but anyway, it's all about God, and God orchestrated every single second of it.
Yes.
And that's why.
Unbelievable.
Awesome. Well, let's. I think you made him a lot there on top of that. All right, let's separate the chairs. I'll do the demonstration. We'll get started this morning.